Hello everyone, welcome to the FOGS Queenslander Podcast. A year has come and gone and we're back with our State of Origin preview. The band is back together, former Origin greats Wally Lewis, Trevor Gillmeister and Matt Gillett. Welcome gentlemen. A year has gone past. It's remarkable how quickly it goes. What's the feeling like heading into Game 1 at Suncorp Stadium on the back of a series defeat? Is there any difference?
Oh, it has to be. I mean, obviously, to get off to a great start would obviously put you in a good position to win the series. And that I forget it's 70-odd% or whatever that you win the first game, you go on to win the series. So, I mean, obviously disappointing last year, and that'll be in a lot of blokes' mind. I mean, we'll get into it later, but I mean, great to see Big Tino back leading the way. I think it's going to be one hell of a series, and the main thing we've got to do is stop their back five, I reckon, coming out of trouble especially. So that's where it's going to be won, I think. Well, Game 1,
Suncorp Stadium, nothing better, is there?
Yeah, if you're going to have your favourite time in a series, it's starting off at Suncorp Stadium, Suncorp Stadium crowd, the opportunity to be able to set the speed of the game right from the opening moments and feel fairly comfortable, fairly calm about where you are. I used to hate it when it was a trip to Sydney for the series opener. Did not like that at all, but the boys are certainly going to have plenty on board in this match, and I'd suggest that the coach will be working them as well and making sure that they do feel extremely cool, calm and collected by playing at home.
Gillett, always a good time of year, isn't it?
It is, mate. And I think, we touched on last year and, we lost that Game 3 up at Suncorp Stadium. So there'll still be, a bit of hurt, a bit of disappointment there, not as a playing group, but for our fans as well. So, Game 1 here at Suncorp Stadium, we know it was a great game last year. We had plenty of opportunities to, ice some points, and we sort of couldn't get across the line. But, we're here, we're back at Suncorp Stadium for Game 1. From what I hear, the build-up and the preparation has been very good. They're up there on the sunny coast. The sun's been out. I think they've enjoyed themselves at the start of the week. But, when it's time to train, they've done what's necessary to get done. I think they've got day off today and then team run, so very close to game day, so very exciting. The crowd's going to be huge, and the build-up's been there all week.
Yeah, we'll look at the team shortly, but you mentioned preparation. I was going to ask about, it's been, dare I say, a boring sort of build-up because nothing much has happened here. The weather's been great, as you mentioned, so no excuses getting out, whereas New South Wales has been bucketing down. I saw a vision of them almost, in cyclonic conditions, but a couple of little knocks and maybe a few players, Kalen Ponga not training for the first couple of days. But apart from that, it's been no excuses, I would have thought, from Queensland side.
Well, we haven't heard too much, have we? So, I mean, that's not a bad thing, and both teams don't want to give the other team any ammunition, do they?
Been very bland, hasn't it?
That's
they're not feeding the chooks.
Show you how bland it is. New South Wales, I think Benny Elias was involved, has brought up some discussion between Daly Cherry Evans and Ashley Klein that happened at Brookvale Oval a month ago, whinging about that. I mean, that shows you where we're sort of trolling
that wouldn't be Benny.
Trolling for stories to try and to engender something, but I think it shows that Queensland knows how important Game 1 is. Both teams do, but Queensland, as you mentioned, Jill, on the back of losing at home last
remember,
time.
We were talking about the review after the third game last year, and we thought it was an old-fashioned, good old, bash-up, both teams ripped into each other, didn't they, the third game last year. So I reckon the first game's going to be a bit more like the third game last year. So it might open up a little bit more towards the end, but I think it's traditionally the first game's a nice little let's give it to them kind of scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's a surprise, the changes. New South Wales moving north a little bit earlier this time around. In the old days, they used to come up the day before the game.
Yeah, that's right.
Late in the afternoon or early in the evening. They didn't want to be on Queensland soil. And cop a spray from the locals, so they're obviously up here to make themselves feel much more comfortable.
Well, as we record this, 27 degrees in Brisbane today, 29 tomorrow, and sunshine. So I suppose you can understand to a certain extent wanting to get away from the weather they've had down there. But let's have a look at the two teams. First of all, Queensland. Your thoughts, gentlemen? 3 players are going to join you on the Wall of Honour here at FOGS HQ. 3 debutants for Queensland and 3 players that you would think may have been, certainly Tom Gilbert, Reece Walsh, Ben Hunt, Murray Tuolangi. They're the players that potentially have missed out through injury. But your thoughts on the side?
How good is it to see Bo Firma? I reckon, obviously he was 18th man and he, for a couple of years and back and, I think it's 2 knee reconstructions and like he's been through a lot. I'm really pleased for him because he's a bloody good player.
He's tough. He's a
exactly.
worker.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be starting in any team.
An Origin player.
Exactly right. Yeah. So he's just tough as nails. And Trent Leero, he's obviously playing in Melbourne. They know he knows how to play tough and grinding and that style of footy. So
I think on Trent, I think he's matured. He's obviously started at the back row for Melbourne, but now he's coming to the middle and he's found his way there. I think he's he knows when to take those tough carries. He knows when to play a bit of footy and feed his half. So
he's skillful, isn't he?
Very pleased for Trent there. He's quite big too. He's a tall bit of timber. But very excited for him to come off the bench and I think our bench can, definitely make an impact with the size there and the style of footy we want to play. Even having Tommy at number 14, we know what kind of player, competitor he is. He's a tough little player. So I'm looking forward to seeing.
You reckon, obviously, things could go wrong. We don't know what's going to happen, but you can get an injury or whatever. Can you see him going into the forwards? What? Not really. I mean, I don't think
Harry Grant has to have a rest, you would think, at some stage. So the pressure's on Tommy Dearden to play dummy half, you would have thought.
Yeah. I think that'll be the part of Queensland's game that they probably thought we can do this. They mightn't know too much about it, but I think New South Wales would have read that pretty comfortably. And Tom's one of those players that he has filled that position on a couple of occasions where he's gone in to destroy lazy marker defence, and hopefully that will be part of his game. I think he's had a bit of a tough year at the Cowboys, but this will be the one that will inspire him. I've never seen him play a bad game for Queensland.
Well, that's sort of
I was thinking too, like, if something does happen, to one of the backs in general, obviously Tommy can go in and they can shuffle, and you can even put Carlin Ponga, into that. He's played that role before, hasn't he? 14. He could go into the forwards. It's
an interesting point you bring up, Wall, about Tommy Dearden. If you look through that side, 1 through 17, even 1 through 20 potentially, that there are so many players picked from teams that are struggling this year. The 2 front rows for Queensland coming from the Gold Coast, heading into the last round before they got their 2 points for the bye. The Gold Coast were coming last. Newcastle has been struggling to score points. Carlin Ponga's there at fullback. You throw in the Roosters have been struggling as well. Yet you say, and you're quite correct, you've never seen Tommy Dearden play, a bad game at Origin level. Daly Cherry Evans, another one whose form's been down a little bit. But once again, the old, almost cliched, they come into camp, they put on a Queensland jersey, things turn around. I just found it interesting that so many players in that Queensland side are coming from teams that haven't had great years, but Origin's so different.
But you look at the club competition in general. How do you pick who's going to win? It's unbelievable. But it's so like, see, and I do remember when I was a young fella, first come in, when I was lucky enough to come in with it, Wally and Mel and Gino and then Greg Dowling and all these blokes. I remember coming in with the Roosters, and it was probably I was going okay without being outstanding, and come in. Then you look at these blokes, and I go, oh, how good's this? You're in a good team. You only have to worry about yourself. You know what I mean? So I think the likes of Tino and even Reuben Cotter, and him and Tommy Dearden are the captains. Obviously the Cowboys. So I reckon those type of blokes have come into camp and gone, oh, how good's this? We don't have to worry about anyone else but ourselves. Get our own game together, and mate, I think a couple of them blokes that are in struggling club teams, I think they'll be outstanding.
And I want the way that the players are going to switch around. I really see Mo Fadawika and Lindsay Collins playing performing the same tasks for Billy. He'll be just saying, we need to make plenty of space. It'll be between you blokes. Do your job and make sure that life's as uncomfortable as possible for the defensive players at marker, in particular, in the New South Wales side.
Interesting to see how many minutes Lindsay Collins does get because he's missed most of the year with that knee injury. He's come back at the right time. Him and Harry Grant have come back at the right time. Yeah. You talk, gentlemen, about coming into camp and saying how good is this, seeing the players around you. But I'm sure deep down Lindsay's most probably thinking, I've got to get through. I can't, I haven't played much footy. I've just got to get through.
I think, mate, obviously Billy will have a plan, and we talked about the team struggling himself in the clubland, but I do know, and Billy does talk about how he watches the players, watches what they're doing off the ball,
little things,
all those little effort areas, and that's how he picks his side. He knows his players. They prove that to him when they play their club footy. They might not be going good as a team, but as individuals, they're showing the Queenslander traits. So, I think, Lindsay, obviously not much game time, and Harry Grant, like you mentioned, Mark, but, you've got that Queensland jersey on. You're out there doing a job. You've got your players around you that's going to build you up for the week. You know your job by game day. I'm sure Billy will give them individual.
Well, when you run out, don't you? You're more confident. You look around. Yeah. It's not a club side. You run out there and go, oh, how good's this? Look at this. And it does. It does spark you up, doesn't it?
3 debutants. Robert Toya in the centres has only played a handful of NRL games. Another Queensland selection masterstroke potentially coming up. Are you seeing the dawning of a new champion for Queensland? Because we don't know too much about him, having only played a handful of games. It'll be interesting to see how he copes.
Nudgy college boy, isn't he?
See how he copes. Yeah.
Was obviously they tried to get him in the rugby union, of course. So. One of Wally's. Do they drag you from rugby union too? Don't they?
Didn't have to drag me from rugby union.
Can I just?
Very, very pleased to see Rob there. We've heard about he's had a bit of a struggle with a lot of injuries coming trying to crack the first grade. So he's definitely been doing a great job. And then I'm sure Billy would have reached out to coach of the Roosters, Robertson, to see what he's like as a human, as a player, what he's like off the field. But he's definitely there for a reason to do a job, and he's got out and just go out, play his own game. That's why he's there. Nothing. He doesn't have to do anything.
I reckon it must be inspirational for people. And I was lucky; I didn't have too many injuries. But obviously Tino last year, Bo Firma's been through it all. Robert, they've just said, and there's quite a few other blokes in both sides really that have come through adversity. So I mean, it's got to give a lot of people a bit of a boost and go, well, listen, these blokes have been through all these injuries, and hopefully I can get through. So young kids, so don't drop your bundle. There's a lot of blokes get through it. So hopefully stick at it.
And on that vein, can we just? I'm so disappointed for Tom Gilbert. The fact that he gets himself back and playing, he would have been in that side. I don't think there's any question about that. Yeah. And then innocuously does that peck and rules him out, which, I know you don't want to bring it down, but I just feel for the guy. Mate,
I think there's a ladder in every room in his house and he's walked under it. He's...
Get rid of them black cats too.
They're everyone. And he's one of those blokes that you love seeing in the side because you can see he assesses the challenge that's ahead, and he never lets you down. Never lets you down.
Lives and breathes it too, doesn't he, footy?
What about the New South Wales team? What are your thoughts on what Queensland is up against? It's a very strong-looking side. Are you surprised that Mitch Moses is at 6, despite that he filled in so well for Nathan Cleary, but being picked ahead of Jerome Luai and getting the band back together for that Penrith spine?
No, I'm surprised. I mean, Mitchell Moses obviously playing well, and for Parramatta, But I mean,
if there's one thing you can't buy and you can't replace in state of origin, it's the understanding between players.
Yeah.
Queensland did it for years, year after year after year. The players mightn't have been in the best of form, but they had the experience of playing alongside each other. And I take it back to the old 1984 thing when McAuliffe was talking about. They asked about experience, and he named a side and was talking about Colin Scott. Kerry Bowstead, Gene Miles, Mel Meninga, Chris Close, Wally Lewis, Mark Murray, Paul Vaughton, Wally Fulton-Smith, Brian Niebling, Greg Dowling, Greg Kinescu and Dave Brown. He used to say every one of those blokes is born within 18 months, 2 weeks and two days of each other in the early days. And then that
played
went
a lot
on.
of footy together.
To Gilly's days where he came in and was used to playing with a group of guys. And when you're playing with blokes like that, you can't buy the understanding of the players around you, that you have such an understanding for them. You don't really need to talk too much. And it was fantastic. And Gilly's days where there wasn't. I used to think, he doesn't do a lot of talking, and then I used to think, he just goes up and smashes them. He just takes them. We understood what we expected of the guys around us, and to have that sort of understanding, that's priceless.
I think it's a big risk he's taking, Laurie Daly, first game back as well, replacing a winning coach in Michael Maguire by sort of not disrupting that forward, because Jerome Luai is, of course, at the Tigers, but they've got a proven track record. Edwards, Luai, Cleary and Yeo. Yeah,
well, that's the Australian side. Or without Luai, you know what I mean? So they all play for Australia, but I mean, and they play a lot of games, as Wal said. You can't put a price on it, and you're right, because people just fall into that natural mode. When you're under the pump, you just look at blokes, and he's right. You don't have to say anything, and nod, wink, and away you go, and you got confidence too. You got confidence in that bloke, because he's going to do his job. He's done it 1,000 times, and then I just have to do my job. But but again, the forwards, we got to aim up a little bit better than we did in the forwards. In that game 3 last year, we got dominated. You know what I mean? So I think I'm loving to see Reuben Cotter again. I mean, as you said, struggling the Cowboys. The whole side is struggling, not just him. But I'm looking forward to seeing and Nanai as well. Obviously, another Cowboy.
Exactly Queensland Cup at the start of the year.
Exactly. So it's good to see.
Yeah, and when we match them, it's got to be in the forwards. Take a look at that forward pack that they've got. That's a very impressive one that can be quite dominant, and they've got a fair bit of power.
Cameron Munster returning, what sort of an impact do you reckon that might have on the way Queensland plays?
It's got to have a huge impact.
No disrespect to Tommy Dearden. But
no. Tommy's
different styles, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Munster's just off the cuff normally, and he can play a little bit of structure, but he's better off playing off the cuff. And Billy knows that, I think. He'll just say, mate, we're going to this certain point of the field that we're going to do this, do that. But when we get inside their 20, it's open slather for you. Just do what you want to do.
Yeah. If Tom's got one bad
Pick
thing
the numbers,
about him, he can play 6, 7 or 9. There's your vital positions, each one of them. He can fill in there and create some havoc for the opposition defence.
Yeah, I think obviously having Munster back, can break open a game quite easy. I think go back to last year, game 3. I think if we have Cameron in there, he's one of those players that could have pulled something out of his rear end and got us away. But we definitely had opportunities there last year, but to win that game and put some points on. But Cameron adds that bit of spark and that question mark.
Well, you can't teach what he's got.
What's he going to do?
You can't teach that. Yeah.
He's quite strong. He doesn't look it, but he's So I'm excited to have him back in the side and to see him and potentially Tommy Dearden and Cherry and Munster out there at one stage, and even Harry Grant, where they used to bring Cooper Cronk or Cherry Evans back off the bench back in the day, number 14, and have an extra option out the back. So plenty to think about for Bill, but no doubt he's got all the plans covered.
I remember when Mel was coaching that we had Lockie, Cooper Cronk, and JT, and we didn't know what originally, and then Lockie obviously retired, but then Darley come in, and we didn't know whether it was going to work or not. In the first couple of games, we're going, oh, this is. But it evolved.
They work it out themselves.
100% right,
yeah.
exactly. And the more games they play together, because everyone was going, and even we were kind of guessing a bit, and we were saying, oh, I'm not sure if this is going to work. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're right. It evolved, and the more games you play together, as Wal said earlier, that you're just second nature after that.
I reckon one bloke who's pleased with the position he's been named in, this is just my opinion, is Pat Carrigan. He's been... Really, him and Payne Haas of the Broncos have been carrying the load all year. I think he'll be so pleased to be back wearing 13 and playing the role he's traditionally played. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's there's no doubt about it. He's down on form, like to what he was, previous years. You know what I mean? Like he's always been, I think, going great guns leading into it, into the series and the confidence and that. So, but yeah, interesting to see if he just goes to that next level again. I know he will, but it'll be interesting to think. He'd have doubts in his mind, I reckon. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, well, the Broncos haven't been setting the world on fire, and he's almost had scabs on his back from carrying the Broncos for a while, and I say that seriously. He's had to switch his positional play around a little bit and cart them forward and be available for defence, and it's I think going to be a game that Queensland will love having him in the side. He's a vital player whose role can never be underestimated.
Gentlemen, come Wednesday night at about 7:30, whatever it may be, as the teams are doing their final preparations. If you were in that room, what would you be saying, or if you're coaching or leading the side, what are the most important things for Queensland to focus on heading into Game 1 on Wednesday night?
Oh, it's pretty simple. Once you're there, you're sitting in the sheds, and you're about to go out, and especially here at Suncorp Stadium, the preparation that you've done during the week is quite vital. And I know they would have, the team, you put the trust into the team to do that, whether it's off the field and niggly injuries and whatnot, but definitely putting that prep work during the week, making sure you ice that. Come game day, you're trying to stay as relaxed as you can, just focus on your role. Like Gilly said before, you've got to focus on you as an individual. All those other players in your room are going to do their job. So the moment you start thinking about if Johnny's going to rock up and play and do his best, you're sort of not in the right mind frame. So just simplify your game, understanding what you need to do well for the team to play well. So try and stay as calm as you can, because once you do get out there, it's quite the occasion, and it's something you want to be a part of.
I reckon that we just got to ice the first 5-10 minutes. You know what I mean? Just break the game down, and everyone says it, but I mean, you got to, that first 10 minutes, I think it'll be Origin beauty. It's best time of your life. The first 10 minutes, especially because everyone's fit and raring to go, and just
bash each other.
Oh, how good is it? It's just it's fantastic. You doesn't get any better than that. And then I reckon, obviously your key players come into, they can stand back if they want to, but they'll have a couple of runs and stuff like that to get themselves in the game. And then obviously flow and all that type of thing. Good D, I reckon. Defence is obviously the key, especially in the first 10 minutes. It's the whole game, but I mean, especially the first 10, you can really set the tempo for the night, I reckon, that first 10 minutes.
Yeah, imperative they start well. It'll be interesting to see what sort of plan Billy puts into place with the side, the size of that New South Wales pack, and how physical and confrontational they are. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Queensland throw the ball around, almost try and run them off their feet. that could also, if there's no ball control, that can be disastrous. But I think that New South Wales pack, if they're allowed to gain control early and be super dominant, it could be a long night for Queensland. But I think Queensland will start well. There is a vital bit of attention got to remain with our 1679. They're the guys that will be controlling the speed of the game and how we play it.
Well, I know you're all going to tip a Queensland victory, but I want to know, as we wrap up our preview of Origin 1, who do you think will lead Queensland to victory and be the best player in Game 1 for the Maroons?
Well, I'm looking at Tino, obviously, but he's going to have to lead the way.
Forward, doesn't it, mate?
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. No. Tino's, obviously got to lay the groundwork for obviously your Munsters and your DCEs and those type of players. So yeah, I'm looking at big Tino, but I'm a huge Ruben Cotter fan as well. So Ruben Cotter, man of the match. Tino.
Honourable mention.
Yeah, exactly right.
Honourable mention.
Yeah.
Well, putting you on the spot.
Yeah, the man of the match. I've been a Harry Grant fan all my life. First time I saw him play, I think it's imperative. And whilst we're talking about usually the attacking plays that he's going to be putting in place, I think it also could be his defence from marker that plays an enormous role in this game. That may be a surprise, but certainly with Cleary being quite adventurous, I think that there's got to be a lot of attention given to controlling his play. His opposite, Reece Robson, certainly is a good player, but I don't think his creative skills are quite in the mould that it's going to take over from Cleary as the vital player for New South Wales. So I think they've got to increase the importance of working from marker.
What about you, Gillett?
Yeah, mate. For me, I think Big Tino and Patrick Carrigan through the middle are going to be our key two men there to get us going and really dominate that middle of the field. I'm excited to see Tino back on the side, and like Gilly mentioned before with Paddy, doing a little bit tough there at the Bronx and trying to find his way. But back in this Queensland arena, I think he's going to really stand up. And off the back of that, with those two big forwards, set the platform there. I think Cam Munster can really have some enjoyment off the back of that, and like we said before, play his style of footy. So I'm going to go with big Patrick Carrigan for man of the match. I know he'd be eager to get out there and do Queensland proud, as they all will. But yeah, I think Paddy's in for a big one on Wednesday.
Well, what we do know, it's going to be a great game, and you'll be able to catch up with our review of Origin 1. It'll go out on Thursday, so make sure you hit that notification bell and you'll find out when our review of Origin 1 is published. So thanks very much for your company today. Enjoy State of Origin 1. The FOGS Queenslander Podcast will be back on Thursday with a review of all the action. Thanks for your time and enjoy the game. Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander Podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.